Look at this.
This
Is
is
there a hole in the lid or does it you
this
just flip it
is
over?
yeah, this is the lazy man's version of rainwater collection.
You can
Um,
be even lazier though. And so this is in between our blue buckets and the just buckets under the drip line right here.
yeah, so
You
I'll
got a
I'll show
trash
you.
can.
Yep, just a regular trash can, 32, 35 gallon, drilled some holes,
Oh, there are
and
it's full. That's why. Okay.
yep.
Nice.
So I will show you the lid here real quick, but yeah, just drilled some basic holes, took some screen, glued it on there. It's coming apart a little bit, but it is probably 4 years old at this point, so
Oh, nice.
it's probably
And that was
due.
probably, I mean, you spent less than $50 on this whole setup, probably.
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your gloves and get your compost ready. Stepping into the ring is the perennial powerhouse, the sultan of soil, the beast of the beds, where permaculture reigns, food grows wild, community roots run deep, and yes, the garden punts hit hard. Freedom starts in the soil. This is the Guerrilla Gardening Show.
Welcome back to the Guerrilla Gardening Show. I'm Mike with Mike's in the Garden, here with Sam from Central Florida Abundance. What's going on, Sam?
What's going on, Mike? What's going on, y'all? It's good to be here. It's been a nice day. It's been hot, but I think summer, I mean, real summer, heat doesn't just count. Really, what summer is the rainy season. And at least in the several cities I've been working in around Central Florida, there has been quite a lot of rain compared to, the past 6 months.
Yes.
I think, once a week, people are getting at least some water coming from the sky. Uh, and that does raise the question, what do we do with all the extra water that is running, off our properties, running off the roof of our house, running off our driveways? We go out through these long periods of drought where, we're spending tons of money on the water bill to keep our plants alive. But then when the rains are here, there's a lot of that water that seems to be wasted. I just wonder if there's any way we could catch some of that, maybe.
Great segue. Yes, there is, Sam. We have and at least in this video today, we're going to talk about different rainwater collection systems, whether that's a rain barrel off the side of your house or diverting water from your gutters and downspouts either to a specific area, or not sure if we'll have time to get into swales and all that good stuff, but um, there's a plethora of information out there, and whether you just have a bunch of buckets out there collecting water, um, you got to do what you got
It's
to
funny
do.
you say that. I've seen that, and it is extremely effective. The you can be super low tech and just find the drip line if you don't have gutters. Line some buckets up, get trash cans. You can hold 50 gallons of water. You might want to use some mosquito dunks if you're not using it every day. But we will get into the tips and tricks of water collecting. Just know that we aren't going to talk on every method you could use today. I'm going to show off some of my favorite methods because I've done a lot of water catchment here in Florida. There is actually a misconception, and I don't know if you've heard this, Mike, but I've had lots of people tell me they thought that it was illegal to capture rainwater. And maybe that is true in some states where, it is drier, but nowhere here in Florida that I've seen.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I think Colorado and maybe Oregon, it was
Mm,
at least for a time. And I wonder too if those are more of like HOAs or, municipalities preventing you from, just like they have, only certain days that you can water or irrigate, something like that. Because I have heard places around here where you can't have a barrel in your front yard because of like HOA restrictions. Um,
yeah, because they think it's ugly. They said, I don't care if you want to save the planet.
yeah,
That is not attractive. But I will say also, HOAs, unless you have, Karen living next to you, they're not looking specifically for things to, right you wrong about. And so you can actually make some of these rain catchment systems. Maybe people will picture a blue 55-gallon drum. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead
Yeah, let's
and
bring those
share
up.
this. So here they are. So this, I mean, these are a little bit more dingy than, I will typically use, but this is pretty standard what you would get for free if you're, doing your first rainwater catchment. And I say free because the world makes thousands of these for all of our liquids that we traverse across the planet. And after a few uses, they don't really want to use them for shipping anymore. And so you can buy them for, I mean, sometimes $5, sometimes $20. Sometimes you'll get them for free from other homesteaders who've acquired too many. Um, Definitely look out for the 55-gallon drums. But what I wanted to highlight is they don't have to be such an eyesore. So, they're blue. They're almost always blue when you get them like this. And you can paint them any color you want. I've painted them several times to match the sides of the house, same exact color, and they just blend in. And then, I mean, people don't even know what they're looking at. Paint it the color of the house, and then plant a shrub next to
Hmm.
it, gone. Um, but this setup, as crude as it looks, is super effective. And this one's done pretty well, actually.
Yeah,
Um, s- some key things to consider. I mean, you don't have to think about all this extra storage. Which this does is gives you more space. So they have, 165 gallons uh, stored here as opposed to just one barrel. But even just the one barrel, having it up on cinder blocks like this is incredibly important, mainly because water travels easier downwards. And so if you're trying to get the water out at all, down's always going to be the best way. The next thing to consider is, you know, getting something underneath. And so if it's sitting on the ground, your spigot's always going to be at the bottom, and you can't get a watering can on it without
yeah.
digging a
That
hole.
last bucket on the left might be a little short, but
I would say, yeah, that one's just for the dog.
yeah,
You turn that on when they're a little too hot outside.
yeah,
Um, but you can see up here, this is coming from their gutters. Again, it's a little more crude, but this is the downspout, and it's just dumping into this first barrel. Um, and normally, what you would do with these is just cut out a hole in the top, and you want to put some screen over that. The water will pass through the screen, like pool cage. You can get small sheets of it at any hardware store, really. Just
yeah,
something that bugs are not going to be able to fly through readily, and that's going to keep the mosquitoes out because the water tanks here in the southeast are just a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Now, this is a much more refined water catchment. But and you can see we're using an IBC tote, and I will shout out the Foodscaper here. He's got a full page on how to build this system for free. You can go download the PDF and learn how to make a really clean water storage system. And you know, this part is going into the tank and it's completely sealed, so you don't have to worry about, you know, other things getting in. But what's really good, and even if you're not going to take this design, you should consider adding this first flush system. And what this pipe does is going to get the uh, first wave of water that comes off of whatever surface. This is some roof. This might be like a chicken coop roof or something. Looks like it's on stilts. But usually that first rush of water is going to carry with it a lot of the sediment and debris that's been piling up on your roof or whatever since the last rainfall. And so you don't want that stuff going into your water tank. So having a screen, maybe there is a screen in here to keep things like that from getting in. But if you have this, and usually there'll be a valve up in this area that it'll divert the water down this pipe until this fills up with pressure, and then it would change and divert it down into the main pipe. So you lose, maybe 5 gallons of water, but you're clearing out a ton of that contaminant material before it gets into your water. If you're ever thinking about catching water for drinking water, which is a whole other thing, we could do a whole video on purification. Uh, but you absolutely need to have a first flush system if this is something that you're going to consume or consider consuming to in the future. But for the most part, rainwater that we catch should go into the garden. You got to be real hardcore to catch rainwater off your roof and then make it into drinking water. I guess reverse osmosis might be easy, but there's a lot of stuff that comes off our roofs, and it's not a lot of it's good to consume. Um,
I mean, most people have either corrugated metal, which rusts, or
yeah,
asphalt shingles. So yeah,
asphalt's the worst.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the metal is usually the best thing. Like if you have a metal roof, especially if you have a newer metal roof, not necessarily brand new, but newer, hasn't started getting scratched and rusted up yet. Uh, that's usually the safest. But even then, you really want the first flush because then at least the shingles and the asphalt roofs, they hold a lot of grit on them, whereas the metal roofs, anything that falls on there is just coming straight down. Um, and I will say these IBC totes, he really hypes them up on here, but they really are great. They're a little bit harder to get than the barrels, but really not that much harder.
I think
Uh,
Tractor Supply sells in one.
Probably, I wouldn't buy them from Tractor Supply. You can get them for under $100 anytime, you know, the shippers are, because this is another liquid shipping container.
Hmm.
And this is a very standard shipping container. I'm going to say billions, and I don't think that that is an exaggeration of these containers in existence or, has
Probably.
been.
Yeah.
And so there's always some, and I've seen them for $60, but usually you can get them for like $100 or less. And I think a new one is usually $300 to $500. Um, you, uh, Even when you're just using them for the garden, it is good when you're buying secondhand to ask and make sure that it's been used for only food grade liquids. Sometimes that could be all sorts of things. A lot of times with the barrels, I get them after they've had aloe vera gel in them,
Nice.
which is always, I don't know how to feel about that. Like if it's pure aloe gel, maybe that's good, but
So we're talking about 1,000 gallons of aloe vera gel.
no, the drums. So it was like 50 gallons
Okay.
of aloe gel, which, you know,
Just as hard to
it's
clean.
heading to a hidden island somewhere nobody wants to
Yeah.
talk about. Um, so you can definitely get these secondhand and don't overthink it. This is a great instruction manual if you want to go for this, but if you don't feel super confident, you can just catch the water. It doesn't even have to be this complex. Like we said, you can set buckets under the drip line of your house. And if you have a gutter, just set a bucket at the bottom. You can cut the gutter halfway, do all sorts of things. Now, there is another uh, philosophy for catching rainwater. And so what we've talked about so far is catching rainwater into a storage container that we then use later and disperse around the garden. And, you know, it's I would definitely recommend, everybody have rainwater catchment in for storage containers because it doesn't really, you know, most of us are not going to catch so much water that we're, keeping water away from the ecosystem because these 50-gallon drums fill up quick. And then somewhere on here, I don't think they showed it. Somewhere on both of these setups is an overflow. And so that when, the container's full, the rest of that water drains off. Now, what you could do there, or even without your rainwater catchment, is something like this. And so this is a rain garden. Um, and you don't really have to think about it too hard. Um, you create an indentation in the ground and plant it with species that don't mind being occasionally flooded, but definitely like a lot of water. Because, the downspouts are always going to be the wettest part of your yard.
Mhm.
And in some areas, our area included, during the dry season, you may have to water this a little bit because it's not getting the rain. But it's going to, for one, keep all that rainwater from your gutters from eroding the soil away as it just blasts into it because it'll have all these plants. And then you can see the layers here, what they've done in this basin. I think the most important thing, early on when you first create a rain garden is the erosion control and using some sort of stone for that. That's gonna break up the water flow before it hits the soil. And this is one of the few cases where I'd recommend using stones around your plants. Um, but it's because of all that moisture. The stones, when they get wet, they keep the soil cooler. This will be the wettest area of your yard. And you really don't want wood chips or, any sort of organic mulch. Rocks are a non-organic mulch because they were never alive. Uh, but if you have a mulch made out of organic matter, all of that moisture in the rainy seasons is going to create a lot of, not necessarily rot for every species, but lots of decomposing elements that can end up spreading to your plants, or if a lot of these places will be right around your house. Usually our downspouts are, right at the corner of uh, one or multiple sides of our house. So cr- creating wet sopping areas of basically a compost pile just
Mhm.
shoved up right against your house, breaking down itself and whatever else it's touching. Uh, so we use the rocks and we use living plants. And this is a nice example. You can definitely mix in shrubs, a lot of, not a lot, but there are lots of shrubs that like to live on the sides of riverbanks. Um, our native blueberries are a big one. Um, Also, different brambles, blackberries, and then you do things like I don't know what's supposed to be in this picture. I don't think anything real. I would probably do, things you would see on the side of a wet trail, blue-eyed grasses, but it would be different for any context. But it's really about the idea of instead of storing that water in a container, you're storing it in the soil and storing it in the plant masses that are there. Now, have you ever experimented with anything like this? Because you have done a lot of rain catchment, but
Yeah, nothing like this when I used to work construction. Um, and really, any development here in Florida is going to have a water retention area where the whole neighborhood's
oh
water gets
God,
diverted. But if you
that is
look
not a
at
rain garden, y'all.
no, no, but if you look at how, if it's done properly, where the actual outflow is from the major drains,
Hmm.
that initial area is almost always rock. For the reasons that you
Yeah.
mentioned, where, especially when we get a quick heavy rain, a flash flood almost, you know, and I have some pictures and videos of the one in my neighborhood, it blew out several times because
Oh yeah.
it wasn't done properly. And when I did construction up north, it was a line item on our projects called rip wrap, and rip wrap is larger than like 12 or 15-inch square rocks. And so we would essentially build like swales or retention areas out of these giant rocks. And that was, there wasn't any type of garden like this, but the purpose of the rocks was to break up that water and, like you said, prevent further erosion. So,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how bad we are at water management down here in Florida. And I mean, I really mean that. Like we do not manage our water well. You know, these are great steps for homeowners, but you know, as far as municipal, we did the episode we did on the native roadway. That that is honestly similar to a rain garden.
yeah, I was gonna say I'll overlay or put something in this video where somebody can go check that out because that's a prime example.
Yeah, that's
Unfortunately, like the only example really that we have. You know,
the only one I've seen around me, at least. I'm sure there's, you know, the rare road that's utilizing all the runoff. And it's crazy, you know, how much runoff we get from all our city, our hard services around a city. Um, but there are a lot of good videos out there, you know. Water is the most important thing. If you think you're gonna, you know, garden, if you think you're gonna, you know, stay alive, you got to have water. And I mean, really, not, you know, I don't think humans have ever really uh, valued water for what it is. You know, we kind of take it for granted. Uh, you know, we assume that it's just always going to be available, but we don't do a lot to protect it. You know, we throw our trash in the rivers, we pollute the oceans, and I mean, here our aquifers are nearly gone. And I've heard some rough things about the Colorado River. And so, you know, this is the first step. Once you start capturing and monitoring and really paying attention to your rainwater, it really changes your perspective because you'll see on your landscape areas that just are getting more runoff than others because they are greener, you know, they're healthier. And I mean, sometimes runoff can be full of contaminants, but the environment is really good at, you know, mitigating and filtering through contaminants. And, you know, that's what plants do. They filter stuff from the soil and the environment that I mean, it's not like they do that for us, but they're just better at it than us. And because they exist, we can exist. And so let's keep doing things that encourage their growth.
yeah,
Oh yeah, this was the ditch. And you can see all the rocks in there. I mean, maybe we can't, but
yeah. This is a video of our video, but nonetheless, I will put a link down below to our previous video where this is in between a roadway and a sidewalk, and it's just a perfect illustration of trees and plants that can survive in a swale, and it's catching this runoff from the street. So that's definitely a good video to go check out if maybe you have a patch like this in between the street and you wanna do something with it. So
there maybe there's a link on the screen somewhere. I know
let's
that.
not get too fancy.
I think I can. When I post, so y'all, if there's no link on Mike's video, come check out mine.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
on Central Florida Abundance.
for sure,
Uh,
for sure.
and if it's not on mine, you should go watch Mike's probably because it's probably there. Uh, but yeah, and there's so many ways to utilize this water, this magical stuff that falls out of the sky. And so really you just got to do it. You know, don't have no fear. Don't let anybody tell you no. Look at this.
This
Is
is
there a hole in the lid or does it you
this
just flip it
is
over?
yeah, this is the lazy man's version of rainwater collection.
You can be
Um,
even lazier though, and so this is in between our blue buckets and the just buckets under the drip line right here.
yeah, so
You
I'll
got a
I'll show
trash
you.
can.
Yep, just a regular trash can, 32, 35 gallon, drilled some holes,
Oh, there are.
and
Oh, it's full. That's why. Okay.
yep.
Nice.
So I will show you the lid here real quick, but yeah, just drilled some basic holes, took some screen, glued it on there. It's coming apart a little bit, but it is probably 4 years old at this point, so
Oh, nice.
it's probably
And that was
due.
probably, I mean, you spent less than $50 on this whole setup, probably.
Yeah, actually, I just had to get a new barrel last week, because I mean, obviously, this is black sitting in the sun for 4 years in Florida. A heavy wind could probably break this plastic at this point, but
Yeah, it's just so brittle.
yeah. Um, and you can see the barrel. I mean, if we go back to the beginning of this video, you can tell the barrel's like new black and the lid is like faded black gray. So I
Oh,
kept
yeah.
I kept the lid for now, and I have the brand new lid in the garage for when, I really do need to replace it.
You go
Um,
to pick it up and it just disintegrates in your fingers.
yeah, the other lid, I don't know that I have pictures or videos of it, but the other lid, for some reason, squirrels ate the whole trim around here. And so I had to make a new lid because the lid kept falling into the barrel.
And
Um,
it doesn't shock me anymore. Anytime I hear squirrels ate whatever, that's fine.
but yeah, I
That's
just
just how they are.
I just cut this gutter off. This went all the way to the ground. I bought this piece here, maybe
And
10,
you can get
15
those at most
bucks.
stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Very basic, very simple. It's accordion style, so you can shorten it, lengthen it. And I just have this stone in place to keep, when it rains, it gushes through here. So I needed something on top to prevent not only the
Rocks.
downspout, yeah, but
That's your rock. You got to have a rock to
yeah,
break up water. Remember, if y'all don't learn anything else, if you have an area of rushing water, put some rocks at the end of it.
but I'm using a watering can. So I just dunk my watering can
Oh,
in
okay.
here and then I go and manually water everything, which I guess you would use if you had a little spigot at the bottom, but
Yeah.
spigot took too long. And to me, this is just like I said, the lazy man, or maybe the more effective version for a lazy person. But
Now, my question is, how long does this water usually sit in here before it's empty?
that's a good question. Well, we've been getting rain every day.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay. Look at you.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, yesterday it was dark earlier, but yesterday, it was maybe a 20, 30 minute rain, but that's good enough to give everything a drink.
Yeah.
Um, but if I know it's not going to rain, this probably lasts a couple days. And obviously the lower the water level is, the faster it'll evaporate. So being in a black container in Florida scorched earth sun. Um, I've had rain barrels over 4 or 5 days completely disappear because that's all it took for
Evaporation?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's crazy. And I mean, that is something to think about. That is another reason. I mean, the blue barrels are thicker, and so
mhm,
they're more insulated a little bit at least, and they do have a solid lid. That does help too.
for sure. Yeah,
Um, Now I want to point out that even though it's not elevated, you did put it on non-dirt. You have it on like a concrete block, which is pretty much essential. If you put your rainwater collection on the ground, like on dirt, it's going to eventually rot out the bottom from always being wet, even if it's plastic, it doesn't matter. But also it's going to shift all of that weight, and especially when it fills up and empties, and then eventually it's going to become unstable and just fall. So always, always, always get it on a level, solid surface. Because, I mean, I'm sure somebody could math. I mean, this is probably 45 gallons of water, but I mean, it weighs I mean, is 1,000 pounds crazy to say?
I don't think it's crazy. It is a 32 gallon. I can
Oh,
see on the barrel there, but I mean a
no, I can't read.
gallon of water is probably 3 4 pounds, picking them up. So call it 4 pounds,
Oh,
32
no,
times four,
it's 266 pounds.
266 pounds. Okay. Yeah.
Really? I guess, I
But
mean, you'd
it's
expect it to be heavier.
266 awkward pounds. You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
This isn't
The
like you're
handles are
picking up,
breaking off that
yeah,
can,
these aren't like a barbell at the gym. You know what I mean?
slopping around.
Yeah. 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 Stack a bunch of 45-pound plates on top of each other and then try and like pick them up. Stand on a Bosu ball where you're uneven and then try to pick up a bunch of weights. And that's basically what you're trying to do with if you
Going
were
to be the
going to try
interview
and,
for my restaurant. Can you
yeah.
hold 45 plates while on a Bosu ball? If you
Yeah.
don't drop any, you're hired.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I do have another one to share because we were talking earlier about collecting as well. And this one um, kind of harpens back to what we were just talking about. So this one's about 2 years old, this video here. And I did get a lot of this cleaned up, people. So, it's always a work in progress here. But um, this was right after a big storm.
Same design, I see. I mean, it's been working for you for years, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Should patent
um,
that.
a lot of this, you can see I have
Oh,
buckets
I see your
everywhere.
trays now. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Oh, so
uh,
you're putting your trays for your pots also like under the drip line and or is that just out catching rainwater?
most of it's out catching rainwater. Some of it is close to the um, edge of the house, but I mean, we've got these kiddie pools here collecting rain, um, and really, it just helped me. You know, the water's over here now. Yeah, it's kind of it was a big pain in the ass to get the water into the
Oh, there you go.
the the little
Into the watering can after
the can,
that.
yeah, because
Yeah.
obviously it's horizontal and not vertical, but
I've always, so I mean, I remember years ago, I had like this big field property that I was working on, and there was no structures to capture rainwater off of. And, there was, I mean, it was just a field, there wasn't even trees. And so I was looking for some way to capture a lot of rainwater in containers in the middle of the field. And this is what I ended up doing, but I
mm,
just really wanted like a funnel, like somebody to design a funnel for like a big, IBC tote or something. Because like an IBC tote, if it's open top, that's just too much. Like you can catch a lot of rain in it, but then, I mean, it's
yeah,
too
everything else
open.
goes on too.
Yeah, and really I want a small opening with like a giant funnel and a screen or something. But then also, so what you could do is like IBC tote in the middle of the field and then put a screen on top of that. So then every rainfall event, I mean, you'll see how many inches of water you get, but and then in between you throw a tarp or really like carpet or something on top of that to keep it from evaporating. Um, and so, I mean, really, that's, the best solution I found, which is just the fancier version of leaving buckets around in the yard. And so, you know, I mean, that's another great way to really capture it that we did, I didn't even really think of. Just, if you got especially those little like gorilla buckets. Is that what you use? Like they're tough, and so if you pick up the whole thing full of water, they don't really break. One of my clients uses those, and
Okay.
she can just, it's like a 5 gallon bucket, and it's under the drip line or, out in the yard. You take it just by handles, and it's rubber. It's like silicone, so it kind of, squeezes itself. And then, pour it into your watering can or pour it into the bed straight away. Um, there's lots of creative solutions. So don't be discouraged. Find something that works, for your specific context that doesn't require more energy than you have to give because you want to be able to keep up with it. You don't want to build something and then just, no, that's too hard.
Yeah, and obviously those kiddie pools at some point, they became uh, more
Hazardous.
more than what is needed for microplastics in the garden because they just constantly broke down, and then they weren't at some point. I don't know what happened. Probably just the sun destroyed them, and they didn't collect water anymore. So
The Florida sun spares nothing.
this is just a funny one. I came out here one day and realized that the top was missing, and this poor guy here was swimming around in here, and
What in the world? Is that a squirrel?
squirrel, yeah, he absolutely scared the hell out of me.
Oh my God.
So I
Thought it was a river otter.
put this little trellis in there for him, and he ended up climbing out. So, um,
Wow.
but I don't know how long he was in there. He was tired. It was probably less than an hour, but um,
This is
so
the OSHA video for rainwater catchment safety. Make sure
yeah,
you have secure screened lids so that no baby squirrels will be harmed in the making of your rainwater catchment.
yeah, yeah. So they right after I let the squirrel out, he went and dug up a bunch of my seeds that I had just
Oh,
planted.
that's
So
great.
yeah, yeah,
Repaying the
typical,
favor. It's like you
typical
tried to
for
kill me.
yeah. But yeah. So I guess real quick, well, we don't really have to, but if you just go to YouTube and type in rainwater collection, um, Andrew Millison has some great videos.
Definitely Andrew Millison. For the
Uh,
city planners should watch that. The
yes,
epic gardening,
Epic
a lot
Gardening.
of good videos.
Yep, David the Good. He's got some tips as well. So,
I
um,
feel like everybody's touched on it because
yeah,
it's so important.
yeah,
If you're watching this, you should go watch a bunch of other, if you're this interested that you sat through this whole video, it's time to get some schematics and just dive in. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah. Here's here's Kevin.
A cistern. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's serious.
This guy here, Millennial Gardener, he's really great. Here's some shorts, all different kind of style. This one, look at this one. That's like on crack cocaine, but
What in the world? I mean, if you're a carpenter too, and if you're confident that you can build a
yeah,
structure
yeah,
to support
yeah,
300-pound barrels, go for it. But you don't have to. Just throw them on some cinder blocks like, Joe Bob did in the first picture.
yeah, for sure. Cool.
But this was
Sam,
good.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think we gave some good information out there. Also, kind of led people down a path where they can find some more information on their own. If they want to hire you, Sam, to come out and do some rainwater collection services, or at least help them
Yeah,
prepare, where should
I
they go?
don't build mini rainwater catchers anymore. I'm not a carpenter, but we can make a rain garden. I can teach you how to make a rain garden. If any city planners are out there, I could probably show you how to make some rain gardens around your streets and roads. But yeah, reach out to Central Florida Abundance. You'll find my email on Instagram and YouTube. It's the same name, or Instagram and Facebook. And then you can check me out on YouTube if you're over on Mike's channel. And if you're over on my channel right now, go check out Mike's in the Garden because there's a lot of awesome content over there as well.
Yeah, and if you are watching here on Mike's in the Garden, make sure you do go subscribe to Sam's channel. It's got a lot of great content on there as well, and you gotta be subscribed everywhere so you don't miss something. And
Ring the
you can
bell.
you can follow me, Mike's in the Garden, on all the social medias, and get yourself a shirt. I wet my plants daily. You want to
With my rainwater catchment.
with my rainwater or my appendages. So Um, you know, that's about it, Sam. Great episode.
Catch
We'll
y'all next time.
catch y'all next week. Cool.
All right, man.